Alright, so Elon Musk has decided to advertise for Tesla finally, but wait a second. Everybody and their mother already knows that Tesla has excess demand and they sell every single car they can make, right? Hence the term supply limited has been used for many years now. So what's going on? Why is Elon even considering running any advertisement if Tesla has all this demand that they cannot necessarily meet? Well, it is true that Tesla was supply limited for the last, I don't know, 5 years or something, but in the last, I want to say 12 months, we've had a little bit of a buildup in inventories. So these are cars that Tesla cannot necessarily move by the end of the month, and it's gotten to a point where like we're already at 45k in terms of cars sitting in inventory for Tesla. In terms of days, that will be the equivalent of 16 days of sales. And you might be saying, wait, this is just smoothing out the delivery curve at the end of the quarter, right? I've heard a lot of people talking about Tesla's backlog. Tesla has a lot of units they haven't been able to deliver. This huge backlog is sort of like a cushion for Tesla, right? Well, that has been the case for the longest time, but as you can see, this is the backlog in the US, and it was 100k at some point in the last 6 months, and now it's about 23k, right? So the backlog is essentially disappearing because 23k is actually the production rate for Tesla. But wait a second, maybe this is just in the US, right? Well, we see a similar situation in Europe. We were at 90k sometime in October, and now we're about 24k. So essentially we're at run rate. We take a look at China's backlog. It's a similar situation, in fact a little bit worse, because China's backlog actually at some point, believe it or not, 170k. This is back in July, and now it's at about 11k. So a reduction of more than 90 to 93% of the backlog. If we put all those regions in perspective, the total backlog for Tesla that at some point was closer to 500,000 cars is now sitting at about 80,000 cars. And so yeah, the backlog has essentially disappeared in the last, I don't know, 7 months or so. Something that was pretty well understood in the community now keeps being said and said again without any context. Tesla, despite lowering prices in the last 12 months by a significant 18%, Tesla is still lowering the backlog and is increasing inventory. So the idea that Tesla doesn't have any demand problem was always true until it wasn't, right? In the last 12 months, this is just not the case anymore. And remember, this 18% drop in prices is despite selling way more Model Y, which is significantly more expensive than Model 3. So in reality, average selling price or ASP should be going up, not down. But luckily for us, Elon actually cleared some of this confusion in the shareholder meeting yesterday. So let's play that clip real quick and then we're going to break down after.
So first, congratulations on your decision to try advertising. We all want Tesla to pass Apple in market cap.
I didn't realize people wanted it that much. Okay.
It's good that a lot of people agree. So earlier this year, you cut prices on everything, 15, 20%. More recently, you've been raising prices on Model Y, Model S, Model X. And can you just talk about the pricing strategy on Model Y going forward?
I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, we see what the demand is, and then we adjust pricing to meet the demand. You know, what happens with other car makers is that they're actually constantly adjusting pricing on cars. It's just not obvious. Whereas with Tesla, it's obvious. So, and this is necessary because demand fluctuates a lot. So something's got to be done to achieve a supply-demand clearing point for volume. Just people are reacting to something that's obvious as opposed to saying, oh yes, every car company does this all the time. Tesla is no exception.
As you can see, the idea that Tesla has excess demand and they sell every car they make, this implies that demand is static. And Elon just said that demand fluctuates a lot. So something has to be done to achieve a supply-demand clearing point. This is just his idea of the equilibrium price in economics, right? And that's why he has to lower prices, because it's the only leverage that they can do to increase demand. But demand is not a static concept. But coming back to the advertising situation, how does that even gonna help? Well, here's the thing, even though the market has significantly shifted from 1.21 million cars in 2017 to now 10 million electric cars, if you see, there's still a significant 63 million cars that are ICE cars that are being sold every single year. And this, my friends, a significant number of these cars are more expensive than Teslas. So clearly there must be some misunderstanding here, because we all know that Teslas are the best cars and EVs are just superior than ICE cars. So that's where advertisement comes into question, because there's certain myths that people still have that are not necessarily constructive, and this is where advertising could actually play a role. So myth number one, Teslas are super expensive, so I won't be able to afford one. This is the main one in my opinion. People still think that Teslas are north of 50k, maybe even 60k. People don't even know that you can get a Tesla for 30 some k. Another one that is pretty big is electric cars catch fire very frequently, whereas we all know that ICE cars actually catch more fire than electric vehicles for the most part. The batteries in the electric vehicles have very short lifespan. We've seen the degradation charts and we know that this is without a doubt not true. The degradation is now pretty minimal. Electric vehicles pollute as much as gas cars because of the cobalt or whatever. We all know that Tesla's batteries, for example, use very little cobalt, and it goes and on and on and on about many other things. This is where ads could play a big part, because we still have about 90% of the population, especially in the US, that still chooses not to buy electric cars, even though electric cars, especially Teslas, are very affordable compared to the regular car. In fact, the average price for a Model Y is now lower than the average price of a car sold in the US, yet many people decide not to buy a Tesla. So clearly there's some room for advertisement to close that gap between reality and what people believe is true, and that is why Elon has agreed to advertise for Tesla. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this little video and I'll see you next time.